Traxxas has been around for almost 40 years now, and over that time frame, they have brought us some very innovative products to the RC lineup. And in today's video, we're going to look at the first 5 years of Traxxas from 1986 to about 1991. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a little bit of history of Traxxas. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. So this has been a long time. I've been trying to get this video out and going ahead and do this. I went ahead and sat down and I'm going to do this in parts. So we're going to be looking at the history of Traxxas from 1986 to about 1991. Traxxas is coming up on their 40th year anniversary next year. So yes, they've been out for that long. In this video, we're going to look at the first 5 years of Traxxas. I'm pretty sure there's going to be 1 or 2 cars in here you didn't even know that Traxxas had created back then. But let's go ahead, let's sit back and let's get in our time machine and go back to 1986. Alright guys, believe it or not, Traxxas's very first car was called the WildCat. It was not the Cat, and the WildCat, as you see here, was a 4-wheel drive vehicle. Now of course these vehicles use brushed motors and stuff in them, but this was their very first vehicle. I was kind of surprised too myself. Now there were a lot of designs that looked similar back in the day. This does kind of resemble some of the Tamiya kits and stuff as well. This came in 2 types of versions, at least for the front end of. You guys see that this version here has the shock laid down in front of it, and then the other version had the kind of 2 shocks in front of it. So that did kind of copy what Tamiya was doing with their popular series. They had something called the Boomerang, which you guys see there. You guys see that laid down shock. So that was kind of the go-for design for 4-wheel drive buggies at that time. Now we skip over to 1987. Now this is one of the cars that I knew about. This was the Traxxas Cat. Now this was the very first ready-to-run hobby-grade vehicle, and this kind of resembled vehicles like the Nico Rhino. If you guys remember that, this was a 540 brushed vehicle, and then Nico had another one called the Thunderbolt. Now this was ran on a 380 motor, and then it was Radio Shack had something as well. They had something called the Golden Arrow. So all these buggies were kind of designed the same, and Traxxas just kind of followed the trend back then, which all companies did, as you guys see there. But what made this popular was that it was a hobby grade vehicle where if you broke something, you could get parts and stuff for it. For some of the other ones, it was kind of like you had to try to glue something together or melt it together, and you guys kind of see the design there between the Rhino and then also the Traxxas Cat. And then they also had one of their kits out. So this was a 12 scale on-road vehicle, and this was a kit. Now I didn't own one of these. I wasn't too much into on-road cars because I couldn't run them all the way around the neighborhood. When I have, you guys stay tuned for a whole history of RC cars from my point of view. I'll go back to the day when I've had my first car up until today. But you guys see here the way this is designed and laid out. Yes, that is a brushed motor that's in there, and it's used a mechanical speed controller and stuff as well. Now on to 1988 was going to be the Traxxas Bullet. Now some of you guys may remember this. This had an aluminum chassis to this design here. So they did do aluminum chassis at some point in time, and you'll find out later in this video they also did graphite chassis for some of their vehicles as well. And yes, for some of you guys that may not know it, that is called a mechanical speed controller, and that's what we used back in the day. And you can still find some of these vehicles on eBay. They're going to cost you a pretty penny, but a lot of them are in good condition there. And here's one that's going to be here that you can find on listing on eBay. But this was something that was kind of revolutionary too, because most of the vehicles that had that was going to be like the RC-10 and stuff, where they had the gold pan chassis. And like I said, everyone was kind of following a particular trend there, and Traxxas was on that bandwagon too. And these are just going to be pictures and stuff from the box of that Traxxas Bullet. Then comes 1988. Now they released about 3 cars in 1988, and some of my friends and neighbors had this. Now this Traxxas Hawk is kind of what is equivalent to going to be the Traxxas Rustler of today, and vehicles like this help put Traxxas on the map big time. You guys have no idea. You guys see the design layout. It's kind of similar to what they have today, except for those gearboxes aren't as high on the Traxxas Rustler as they are in these vehicles. But guys, I'm telling y'all, this was revolutionary back in the day. To get something like this with full ball bearings and stuff ready to run, You didn't have to do anything but buy a battery for it, and you were pretty much good to go. And we used to run these cars a lot, but you guys can see there with the design of it, not too much has changed as far as some differentials and stuff go, but they did over the years, of course, make it tough. So it's gonna be brushless tough. And then they had the Traxxas Radicator. Now this was my first two-wheel drive buggy, y'all, and I drove the tires off of this thing. I went from to my Monster Beetle over to a Radicator, and then I had the Rad 2. We'll talk about that in another video. And you guys see here with the Radicator, they did go back to a plastic design for the chassis there, other than the Bullet had the aluminum chassis. But you see the layout there, and this came with one of their first electronic speed controls. It was called the XL1 back then. It was huge, but you had an electronic speed control, and this was right around the time that the hobby started having a big transitional shift in just basic modern cars, kind of like what Tamiya was building back then, to some of the stuff that was a little bit more, I'd say, race ready, but you really couldn't take it to the track and win, but you feel like you had something really big there. And then came the Sledgehammer. Now this was kind of equivalent to the probably X-Maxx of the day. It wasn't the same size, but everybody was getting these vehicles and doing a lot to them. I mean, it was crazy what they were doing to these Sledgehammers. And this had 8 shocks on. You guys can't see it there, but it did have 8 shocks on there. And like I said, it came with this XL1 speed control. You got electronic speed control and everything for it. You were good to go. I think the first designs of this had the mechanical speed controller, and then right around that time they were transitioning over to the electronic speed controllers. And yes, those are NiCad barriers that it came with. You saw in that previous picture too. But the chassis and layout was good. I believe I can't recall, but you guys put down in the comments. I think the black chassis here came with the mechanical, and then the other chassis came with the electronic. We'll put down the comments, but that's going to be the design there of some of the gearboxes, some of the innovation Traxxas was kind of putting to this stuff, and people were doing tons of upgrades to these vehicles and stuff as well. Then we're going to step into 1990, the Blue Eagle. I had one of these myself, and believe it or not, Traxxas was out there racing and stuff too, and this is when they were talking about the 272 Magnum transmission with this. And this had a graphite chassis on it. Look at that there. So yes, they did do that at a certain point in time, and they were racing. They were pretty competitive with this as well. And then they also had the Blue Eagle. Now this was kind of more of a, not so much of a race kit, but you could take it out there, but it kind of came ready to run. You guys see that big XL5 speed controller in there. And now on to 1991. Now this is the TRX-10. This is another vehicle that Traxxas took out and they raced to, and they won, guys. You guys stay tuned to the end of this video and you'll see a quick overview review of Traxxas if you can't wait till the very end. But you guys see the transmission and stuff there. That's gonna be the layout of the chassis. And then they also had the Blue Eagle LS. Like I said, guys, these vehicles, they were taken to races and they were winning races and stuff as well. Believe it or not, I don't know why they stopped racing, but I think the competition just changed with 8-scale buggy and stuff. But you guys stay tuned, because this is just going to be part 1 of probably about a 5-part series. I'm going to go through the whole history of Traxxas and other vehicles too, and stay tuned for the end of this video. You'll see the history of Traxxas like in 60 seconds. I did a short on it, but I just went ahead and pinned it to the end of this video. And if you guys like stuff like this, let me know, and then I'll also tackle other companies as well. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, appreciate you watching, see you in the next video.